Listen, arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Try to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. Hit every bar, even though my bar's been the hardest. The scars on my face, and I ain't always been the smartest. But I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people. I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson. I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant. Tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. It gets so lit, I guess so, bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody...
Ladies and gentlemen, back around to the Tuesday.
The best day
with
of
the
the
boys, little sports nonsense and whiskey. Got some good stuff for you tonight, fellas. Pinky, Robert, how you guys doing this evening? Oh, everybody's got whiskey tonight. Look at this.
I had
This
it
guy's stepping up.
I've had whiskey the last couple of weeks.
Cheers. Yeah, Pinky wasn't. Pinky was drinking beer and some tequila mix or something.
I was mixing it up last week.
I think this is a first. Cheers to the gentlemen for finally everybody with a little whiskey.
We're on the same page.
Little Buffalo Trace.
The boy, Pinky. Now take a sip because everybody cheers to you, and I don't need
it. It helps with the cold, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, fellas, how we doing this evening?
Oh man, I've been waiting all day. The last 2 days are like Christmas for any football fan. Since I'm sick, I stayed home from work. I had the TV on NFL Network all day, and just working from home. It was pretty awesome.
Solid.
Oh.
Had a pretty chill weekend myself. Watched the Oscars, which was pretty entertaining. Again, I love movies, so I get excited for some of the stuff that happens because I missed Poor Things, which won a lot of awards, which I still want to see. Of course, Ryan Gosling did excellent with his performance.
Poor Things, that's the one that
Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, Emma Stone.
Yeah. Emma Stone's in it. You got me there.
Here's the problem. I like movies too. But the Oscars don't give awards to movies that should actually win. They give awards to whoever's doing the best behind the scenes deals and handshakes. Acquire said awards.
Sometimes.
Pretty much all the time, it feels like.
I don't know, man.
Unless there's an Oppenheimer or a Titanic or a Lord of the Rings or something that comes out that year that is a good movie, and if the powers that be were to not vote for said movie, everybody would realize what a sham it truly is instead of just thinking maybe it is a sham.
So this year really felt like it was just fun. There were a lot of good moments throughout. It wasn't like the last several years where it was just seemed very, I don't want to say politically charged, but
not the Oscars.
Just its own thing, if you will. But this year, it actually seemed like fun. Pinky said he missed it, and I sent the video in the chat to y'all. My favorite moment actually wasn't the John Cena or Ryan Gosling's performance. It actually was Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito, and Michael Keaton for their quick 30-second bit, which I mean was hilarious.
That was pretty good.
Getting
That
to
was
see
pretty good.
Michael Keaton just be Batman again,
And
like
and let's
he just
be
took
honest.
it on.
I
He's
mean, you're
Batman.
too young, Robert, but Michael Keaton is my Batman.
Again, that's what I grew up on. So Michael Keaton is my Batman too. Like all the other ones are good, but Michael Keaton is Batman.
I do really like his Batman. He was a good Batman.
So
because he plays the billionaire kind of jerk, and still in a fun way, and then like the Batman seriousness as well. Like
I agree. I still think Christian Bale is very underrated with his portrayal of Batman.
I mean, I don't think his portrayal is bad. I just think like that series of movies were done so well, it makes him look really good. I don't think Michael Keaton's movies were as good, but I think Michael Keaton's he's my Batman.
I agree. I mean, yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that. Don't hate that. Here's the thing about the Oscars that I find amusing. When you're talking about these bits and stuff and how the last couple of years were politically charged and things of that nature, what should really happen every year for every single Hollywood award show, if they want to continue to host them and put them on public television, is that Ricky Gervais should be the one and only host for every single one, just to make sure that these people remember their place.
Love that guy. So funny. But yeah, that was my big thing. Just I love watching that every year. So
I love the Cena bit. That had me rolling.
That was hilarious. That was very well done, honestly.
My wife was shocked that he still looks that good.
I mean, when you've got an ironclad diet and you work out every day, 10 times a day.
Yeah, and free
other things
whenever you want some. That helps too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it doesn't hurt.
Just saying.
But yeah, that was good. Ken was fun when Ryan Gosling did Ken.
Slash. That was awesome.
I mean, Slash is cool, but yeah. Slash isn't really my dude, so he's all right.
I just love seeing him. I've got an appreciation for guitar players, so seeing him do his thing still is awesome. Just because
he's I think he's coming to Denver this fall. Coming to the Mission Ballroom.
Nice.
I heard that today on Kilo.
Okay.
Let's see what else from the weekend. UFC fights were this weekend. It
was a good weekend for fights. I watched some of the fights on recap on Sunday, and they were really good.
The prelims were all right. The main fights were pretty good, and the fights had former champions, up and comers. The championship fight, they kind of had a mix of everything. The one that was really disappointing, Kevin Holland versus Michael Venom Page is his nickname. It was his first fight in the UFC, and he was hyped up, like super hyped. He was so hyped up for this fight, and I was like, I'd never heard of this guy, and he got hyped up. I watched the fight going, I don't know how they raised his hand as the winner. I didn't see him win this fight. I didn't see Kevin Holland really win the fight either. Like they were both but I saw more from Kevin Holland than Michael Page. So I didn't know exactly what I was watching. Neither guy did much. But Michael Page had his hands down most of the time, was getting tagged. Nothing major, but like I just was not impressed at all. And when they raised his hand, I was like, did I miss something? Like I don't know how this guy won the fight, but that happens with the guys that they're trying to hype up, right? When a guy's getting hyped up like that, though, you would hope they come in and have like a dominating performance, and that just didn't happen.
Fair enough.
Domination, Robert. Domination.
That's what it's all about, gentlemen.
We just gotta highlight that word every once an episode,
Dustin Poirier, it was good to see him get back in the win column.
Mm-hmm.
Knocking his dude out. He was in some precarious situations. His ground game is not bad, but that is not his. He should not be have some guy on his back, and he was able to kind of keep the guy from throwing a choke in a couple times, and then was able to catch him. It was good to see him get in the win column. He's fought a lot in the UFC. He probably would have been champ for a while had he not taken that Conor fight instead of fighting for the belt. But the Conor fight was more money, so I can't fault the guy for doing that. You got to make your money in the UFC. That's they don't pay him enough. And then Robert, what did you see before we talk to the main fight?
So I watched Poirier's knockout. He really seemed to have just a handle on that fight. I'm honestly surprised it took him to 2.
That guy didn't have he tagged Poirier multiple times. No power in his punches.
So, and that's why it just seemed like there was no real
no threat,
no effort. It just seemed like he was, oh, hey, you're there, but you're not. So what I think was it Saint Denis or whatever his name is. Just didn't seem like he had any business being in the ring in the Poirier because he just rocked it. So, and I like seeing that, especially from before him come back. So it was nice. It was good, really good fight.
Yeah, I like Poirier.
Honestly, it was probably watching the recap. It was probably my favorite. When we get into it, the main event really wasn't my favorite. A couple of good things, but not super awesome. So,
Caleb, you got to watch that last fight since I streamed it for you guys.
Much appreciated. Good sir. Cheers, my guy. Coming
yeah,
thank you. As usual.
Thank
Cheers. That was at my buddy Jay's place, and he's got a pretty good sized screen and everything set up. And man, I'm so when guys get their title shot, I know you don't want to get knocked out. But if you're facing a pretty good striker that can just keep you away the whole fight, you're gonna have to sacrifice eating some punches to get in closer and make it a fight. And it's like by the 4th round, Vera finally did that. And he tagged O'Malley a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh, okay, we've got a fight now. That was it. And then the 5th round, he didn't try it at all. Like he was just like playing that timid, like, I'm going to stand on the outside. I'm waiting for my shot, but it's not coming. O'Malley's a really good striker. Like, I don't like the guy myself. He's not my guy. But that dude can strike, and he can pick you apart. You're going to have to eat a couple punches and get in. And I've seen so many of these title fights go this way. The challenger is just scared of that getting knocked out. To me, when you get that title shot, you just got to go for it.
100%. And Vera kept cowering. There were so many times when like O'Malley would just take a step and Vera would just cower. And then O'Malley would take a step in and keep going. And, in a fight like that, you got to control it and you got to go for it. There's just, you got to fight, take some punches.
You're shaking your head, Caleb. You don't agree?
No, not even a little bit, actually. We saw this fight very differently. I saw 2 fighters who what appeared to be went in there with the same game plan, and one was able to execute it while the other one was a bit thrown off and was in between attacking and counterpunching in Vera. So I'm a big Sugar guy. I love me some Sugar O'Malley. So I was pulling for him to begin with, and I'm glad he went out there and to me won every round. Some rounds being a little closer than others, but I would say he won every round.
If you gave Vera the 4th round, that'd be the only round you can give him. O'Malley won every round.
I could kind of see that. Yeah, I could kind of see the 4th round going to Vera if you wanted to nitpick. Sure. But again, here's what I saw. I saw 2 guys who, to me, looked like they went in there with the mindset of being a counter attacker. I'm gonna let you do something, and I'm gonna work off of that all fight. And I think Vera did that. And I could be totally wrong. Again, this is just what I saw. If that's what he was trying to do, I could understand that because, like you said, O'Malley will put somebody's lights out real quick. So if you want to try to avoid getting inside that zone and stay kind of just on the outside and allow him to make the mistake and react off of it, that would be a really smart fight strategy for Vera. especially for someone who's known to be able to eat some punches if he needs to. Which, from my view, that dude ate a ton of punches.
Absolutely.
And nobody wants to talk about it. And I mentioned this to you guys in our chat after the fight. I don't think people realize how much those body shots that O'Malley kept throwing in those first 2 rounds and then continued after that, even though he was going for the head more, those soften a fighter up. And if you do them in such a way where you're a powerful striker like O'Malley and you're putting them to the body instead of the head to start, those wear on somebody to the point where they start tightening you up. Your body starts feeling it. You start being sore. You can't stretch as much as you would like to with your next punch. Your jab becomes weaker because you can't put your body and the torque into it. So what O'Malley did was brilliant because he took a powerful striker and instead of trying to knock him out right away, he softened him up continuously over and over and over again until I believe it was the 3rd round. We saw that nasty knee to the head that would have knocked out anybody. Anybody else in the UFC would have been knocked out by that.
That sounded like a baseball bat.
Dude, and Vera ate that somehow, backed up, and continued to fight. It was insane. I thought that was going to be the fight. I mean, it opened up his cheek. Like, that was nasty. So, more props to Vera because you said he didn't attack. I think he did. It's just that O'Malley... Did you see how often O'Malley literally almost ran backwards to avoid Vera attacking? So you're talking about Vera not moving in, but he did. O'Malley just ran away from it constantly. He avoided it. He was running backwards around the ring to move away from some of those, just to make sure that Vera couldn't get inside that striking zone. So, you know, you saw something completely different than me. I saw a guy who was trying to go after the title,
timid.
And I didn't see that at all. I saw a guy who had a game plan. He didn't get a chance to go after it.
I agree with that.
And then when he attacked, O'Malley ran the hell away. O'Malley didn't try to counter off of him. He just got out of the way of it completely. So, I
see this all the time, though. Like, I see it all the time.
I know you see it all the time. And most of the time, I agree with you. Most of the time, I agree with you in that sense where the guy doesn't truly go after it because he's scared of getting his lights out. That's not what I saw from Vera. That dude ate punches all fight trying to get within the striking zone of O'Malley, and O'Malley wasn't having it. It was no different than a guy trying to make sure he didn't get a takedown and laying on top of the guy and avoiding the takedown. That's what I saw from O'Malley when Vera tried to attack. Instead of, laying on top of him, he just ran away. Like, just straight ran away. It's like, no. You're not coming in here. I'll run away. You can try to chase me, and then we'll reset and do this dance again. So, I think fighting style wise, matchup wise, it's just like you've always talked about, Pinky, with football and everything else. Matchups matter, and you can just have a bad matchup. I think Vera tried to do everything you would like to see. It just looked like he necessarily wasn't because O'Malley's just a bad matchup for him and ran a perfect game plan. Because honestly, O'Malley's usually trying to attack and take you down. He's trying to put you out as quickly as possible. And I didn't see him try to do that at all with Vera. Even when he knocked him in the head with that flying knee, he didn't go straight after him.
That could be the
held back a little bit.
That could be the championship hesitancy of, I don't want to lose the belt, right?
Because a
lot of champs fight that way too.
I guess you could see it if that's what you want to see. But to me, I saw two dudes going at it with just really smart game plans.
I didn't see O'Malley make many mistakes, so he was doing what
as far as champions go, and you want to see them attack, you want to see them try to put somebody's lights out, but also be smart about it and fight within a game plan that allows you to win. I don't know if we've seen one better than O'Malley in recent memory. I think he put on.
That was his first title defense, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. UFC 300 next month. Yeah. Even the prelims are stacked. Like, it's nasty. I'm super stoked for that one.
I definitely want to find a way to watch that one for sure.
April 13th, good company. Come on out.
We'll see. I'm a little nervous that it's going to fall on its face because usually when they have these big ones, They don't
Man,
usually live up to the hype.
I still remember UFC 100 and 200. They were both awesome, and one of them fell around my birthday, and we had a blast. So, it's always a good time, man. It's always a good time. I don't think that I don't. If you like fights, I mean, you're talking. Oh gosh, we've got Pereira fighting Jamal Hill, Weili Zhang. She's awesome. Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway's overrated. Gaethje's going to put his lights out. Oliveira is fighting. Bo Nickal's fighting, who's a big wrestler. He's up and coming.
He's been doing work.
Yeah, he's got a tougher fight this time than he's had before. And that's on the Bo Nickal fight. That is those are the top 5. You've got Peroja, probably not even saying that right. He's been a champ. Aljamain Sterling has been a champ. He's fighting. He's fighting on the prelims. Holly Holmes on the prelims.
And Holly Holm hasn't really been that.
Dude, all I hear for this UFC 300 was Dana White ran out a really good young up-and-coming talent, and he called everybody who was a has-been to get on the card. Every big name that's a has-been is on the card. Other than Bo Nickal, everybody else isn't even a top contender in their weight class. And yet,
most of these guys are in their top 5. They're ranked in the top 5 of their weight class. Almost every single one.
You're not a true title contender. You're not a true. I'm not excited about any of those fights with Bo Nickal.
Well, we'll be fine without you then if you don't want to come watch, because those fights are good fights, and that's even like the first one's Figueroa, and he's been champ twice.
Literally, I don't care if you're champ. Literally, most of those guys are known for boring fights. Literally, most of them. Like that's just because you're a big name in UFC doesn't mean you're going to put on a good fight. Just because you were a champion doesn't mean you're going to put on something exciting.
Those are going to be some good fights, buddy.
I don't think so.
I like watching Gaethje fight, Oliveira fight. Those guys are good. Pereira's that's a good fight usually. Jamal Hill's fun. He's coming back from injury to fight Pereira. Bo Nickal's interesting because he's been kind of given some.
That one's interesting. I like
weaker.
That.
He's been given some weaker opponents to start with. So,
Patty should be on this card, and he's not.
I want to say Patty had. I have to double check. I thought Patty got kind of lit up in his last fight that he had an injury 6 months.
He did. That's right. I forgot about that.
He won.
About that. He won. Yeah.
But he got tagged up pretty good.
It was his foot or his leg or something, wasn't it, from the kicks? Yeah, I forgot about that. You're right. So, okay. To me, dude, it's still like there's no reason Jones shouldn't be on this card fighting somebody. But again, he got injured too, right?
So he got injured, and he's waiting. He's waiting to fight.
I know he's waiting for me.
Stipe.
Yeah, Stipe. But still, these were big names. I don't think they are still big names. I mean, to me, that's a disappointment.
I think most of the top 7 fights are big names. Peroja is still a big name, and he usually has really good fights. Aljamain Sterling is still a big name. Like I feel like you're not. I think you're.
Hasn't he lost 3 in a row?
He hasn't. He just lost 1. He lost to Sugar Sean.
But he didn't just lose. He got lit up.
He did. He got knocked out. But that was his only loss recently. So,
I know
he was champ
on a big
6 months ago.
Streak and who's the other one? There's a couple guys who were the up and comers, and they've been losing left and right. So it's
right.
I just don't think. I think Patty's a big name within the game right now, just because he provides that entertainment to go with winning right now. Now, how good and how far he can go, I'm still a little unsure on that. But he brings the crowd, right? He brings the energy you want to see. O'Malley, I know you don't like him, Pinky, but the dude has very, very entertaining fights every time. There's not many guys in the UFC like that right now. Jones is like that, but again, he's injured. the heavyweight division right now is a joke. The light heavyweight is a joke. You got a couple of these lighter weight classes that are entertaining, but on the whole, the UFC, as far as names go and quality fighters that are not just good fighters, but are also going to put on good fights, there's not a lot of, unfortunately, at this current moment in UFC history.
I'm fixing something here on our stream, boys. So go ahead and move to the next thing.
So Caleb, you had some college basketball things you wanted to go ahead and bring up. So what you got for us, buddy?
Well, so real quick, a couple of the conference tournaments have already happened and ended. I'm not going to go through all of them because there were 9. So out of the 32 automatic qualifiers, or what you'll hear a lot as AQs, 9 of those have already been clinched. So 9 conferences have already played their conference tournaments. Winners have been announced, and they are going ahead and making sure that they've locked up their spots. Over the next week and a half-ish, roughly, we will see the other 23 spots filled. I said last week that conference championships start this week. For the most part, they do. Obviously, if there's 23 out of the 32 starting this week, then, majority. So this week, next week, those conference championships will happen. And then not this Sunday, next Sunday. Is it? Yeah, next Sunday. Not the week and a half. This next roughly 5 days. The conference tournaments happen, which then I'm pretty sure Selection Sunday is next Sunday. Bear with me. Now I'm getting my dates twisted. But I'm pretty sure it's the 17th. Let's double check real quick here.
Yep, it's the Sunday.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was a little off on my dates. My calendar's still off from Disney. I apologize.
And it's daylight savings.
Yeah, that too. All of it all at once. So this Sunday is Selection Sunday. So over the next 5 days, the rest of the conference champions will be announced. Some big things. Kansas is looking like they're going to be hurting. They're going to be missing their top 2 dudes in McCullers and Dickinson. So that's a big deal for Kansas, especially when you're trying to be as high up on that line as possible. They've had some brutal losses and some okay wins. But if they don't go very far in the Big 12 tournament, they could be looking at maybe a 3-line, even 4-line, depending on when they get knocked out, how they get knocked out. So big deal for Kansas. It kind of feels like I said this last week, but the 1 lines are kind of locked up unless something just crazy happens and these teams go out early in their conference championships. Purdue, UConn, North Carolina, and Houston are looking like the 4 1 seeds right now. Even if they don't win their conference championships, semifinals or finals will probably lock all those 1 seeds up. Duke, I guess if they win the ACC, could maybe move up to that 1 seed. I don't really feel like anybody in the Big Ten could do that. Houston is probably locked up regardless. They smoked Kansas that final regular season game. So regardless of what happens, I think they've kind of done that. And then UConn could easily lose their conference championship. I just don't know if anybody jumps them because of that. There's some good teams in the Big East this year. Marquette, Creighton, I've talked about in their crazy season. So it'll be interesting. But Sunday, we're going to get some announcements. Next Tuesday, we'll be talking a whole lot about it.
We got a bracket.
We'll be discussing brackets for sure. And then Thursday, game starts. So things are going to go quickly. And it's very exciting. My favorite time of year for sports really is Selection Sunday. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you got games all day. From time you wake up, basically, until the time you go to bed. So a lot of fun. And I have yet to ever remember in my 40 years of life that there's been a bad tournament. There might be years where you don't necessarily get the Cinderella story or the upsets, but you're still getting incredible basketball. The tournament just never fails in that regard. So I'm excited. And
this is
thoughts next week.
This is when the casual college basketball fan gets to see guys from different teams that maybe they didn't really notice during the regular season. You know, I still knew nothing about Dwayne Wade at Marquette, and then they're running through the tournament, and it was such a good story, and he was just awesome. Took Marquette to the Final Four, like it was amazing. There's just things like that, stories.
Steph Curry's run.
Yeah,
Kimball.
I know all about Steph. I know all about Steph Curry's run. Okay,
right.
Let's not talk about that.
You should. Davidson, Kansas. Yeah, absolutely.
Dick.
Yeah, you got stories like that everywhere. UConn and Syracuse have played some amazing Big East back in the day tournament games. A couple double overtimes, a 6 overtime. UConn then made a couple different improbable runs to the championship, and there's just, I mean, you're always going to get some last second shot game victories, like so many things that the tournament offers that you just very rarely get with any other major sports tournament, professional or amateur.
Right. And it's one of those things, like I said, during most of the season, I don't really care to watch a lot of college basketball, but the tournament being one and done, you've got all different teams playing against each other. It's what the college football playoffs, I hope, will be as we get that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, and it's always a fun time to watch. I don't like it sometimes when they move around when you get like interested in the game, and then they move to a different game in the middle of the game. That sometimes can be frustrating. I know there's other ways to watch the full game, but
well, here's the problem, Pinky, is one, you can get the CBS Sports app and you can watch any game you want, but you need cable, so you can link it to your cable provider. Or you have cable and you can watch every single game all at once. If you don't have those things or those options, sorry, bud, that's on you. You're working from home, grab your laptop, connect to my internet. Let's roll.
I could do that. Don't worry. Got a little desk for me.
Got the big TV in the basement with plenty of room on that giant couch, man. You just come hang out and we'll throw. You bring your tablet. I'll have my tablet. We'll have a couple different TVs going. We'll make sure every game is going all at once.
Not a lot of work getting done that day.
No, never. Every year. And deal with it.
Right. I still remember most of my, usually like the civics teachers or history teachers or math teachers, just like, here's an assignment, and we're gonna put the thing on the big board. So, God, I don't even see that comment. Huh? Maybe I'm behind.
Refresh, buddy. Refresh. That's been happening to me the last couple of weeks. I'm like, man, we're not getting any comments, and then we sign off, and all of a sudden the comments refresh for me, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, how do you refresh the comments? How do you do that?
Just hit comments and then comments again.
Oh, okay. All right. Where are we at, boys? Where are we at?
NBA is still happening, but it's still the Jokic show. And I will say, on a side note, not just that it's the Jokic show, dude's putting in work and the Nuggets are rolling along with a couple other teams. But I will say, quick note, and then we can move on. Dallas isn't winning, Pinky. But Luka has now done 7 straight games with a triple-double, the first 6 of which in a row were all 30-plus point triple-dubs. Here's the thing. I love Luka Doncic. I think he's an insanely good talent. But he's starting to get into that category of black hole offensive player in which he dribbles like James Harden for 23 seconds of the shot clock, and either he's going to shoot or he's going to throw it to somebody to throw it up at the last second. He's so much better than that. But he's not playing with any trust in any of his other teammates, and it shows. And it's starting to look
he's still getting 10 to 12 assists a game, so he's doing enough passing. But yes, I know I've watched a couple of them lately that I'm like, whoa, Luka, like, that's not an offense. That's just you waiting for that moment, and then, okay, I'm going to shoot.
It's hard to watch, and he's better than that. He really is more of a a Jokic type. Now, he'll dribble a little bit more than Jokic and have the ball in his hands a little bit more, but not to the extent he's been doing over the last year-ish, second half of last season, pretty much all of this season. I just see a guy who has zero trust in any of his teammates, unfortunately. So
Right.
it's going to be interesting to see what Dallas does going forward.
They're just in that position. They gave up so much for Kyrie, and as we said at the time, it wasn't worth it. It just wasn't worth it.
No.
And it's unfortunate because I think what Luka's doing really does start to shine that MVP light on him. And I think without the winning, he's not going to. I think he's going to be in the top 3 at the end. But without the winning, he's not going to get any closer.
Yeah,
you've got two of the best players in the league on the best teams in the league. They're going to get the most votes. So
agreed.
And yeah, Joker's still doing his thing. I mean, most everybody else, it's that time of year where injuries start to happen, and we've kind of seen that. Karl Anthony Towns going to be out for a while.
Yeah. I'm just reading the free agent tracker and just pulling it up. I was getting prepared. Had a couple of thoughts pop into my head. I don't follow basketball like these guys, so I don't have much to contribute to the conversation.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I remember those days. I'm there, Robert. I know what you're going through. That's why you got to educate yourself.
Hey,
we can only do so much. We can only do so much.
Exactly. I've been trying to study the free agency all day too, so trying to get ready.
We got to get him to a point where it's not studying. It just is.
Right.
The journey starts here.
That's why on Bleacher Report, I've got the teams I'm interested in, and then I've got the NBA one, I've got the NHL one, so it gives me different reports, and I can see what's going on. No, Cody, and even Caleb this year wouldn't know much about hockey. He hasn't had time to keep up with hockey, so it's just me and you, buddy.
I know the main stuff, like McDavid went off for 30 straight games of assists without a goal, and McKinnon's killing it. Matthews had a great start for his. I know the real high level stuff, okay?
I'm keeping up with it on tabs. I used to be a big hockey person with my family when the Red Wings were pretty good, and then I moved away to Germany and really got back into soccer and just haven't really paid attention to any.
And the Red Wings haven't been good since, so I
exactly.
Get it.
So I don't really have any. I mean, they beat the Avalanche, the most recent series, the series before that. So that was exciting. I got to relish that for a little bit, and then I'm
sun shines on a dog's ass every once in a while.
You got it.
That's how it works. But yeah, and the Spartans have sucked in college basketball, so
I'm on par. My soccer team's excellent. I'll talk about that all day. I've been following that religiously, but that's for another day.
Yeah, you did curse the Red Wings, that's for sure.
I absolutely did.
Cody, I did wear this for you, my man. I'll definitely talk more about why here as we get moving into that topic. I don't know if we're ready to move on yet, though.
Caleb, do you have anything else to say on the NBA side of things here, buddy? Let's go ahead and let's pop the top off this free agency and get into it because it's heavy.
All right, Robert.
It's like watching Madden.
What are you excited about?
I mean, I will save my most excitement for later, because everybody knows where I stand. But no, actually, I was really excited for Baker Mayfield. Actually, that was probably one of my more favorite signings to see. Just kind of, I saw the blurb come across and I really thought about it this afternoon. But the story of just know your worth. And I mean, we've talked about it here before that, Baker sometimes is kind of maybe too full of himself, but at the same time, there's been a lot of instances where he's shown just that greatness that he has and how he is a reliable player and quarterback. And I'm actually really looking forward to see how he performs over the next couple of years at Tampa. So That's actually what I'm looking forward to. Caleb, you can sneer all you want, but it's an exciting choice.
I love Baker going back. I mean, he played good with that team.
He did.
They like him. He got him to the playoffs. Now he can play better. He's going to have to play better. But I just like that story. Now, again, he's probably a little full of himself. I agree, Robert. That turned some people off. I still think the Cleveland Browns would be a much better team if he was still in Cleveland.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
I agree with that.
And if he hadn't played through a horrible shoulder injury and played so poorly, he'd still be in Cleveland.
Probably. But here's
some guys would have shut it down. He was like, "No, I can deal with this. I can deal with the pain," and that was unfortunate.
It cost him. It definitely cost him. But the problem with them signing Baker is twofold. One, to me, it feels like you didn't do your due diligence to improve your team the best way possible. And that is a scary thought if I'm a fan of a team. The second thing is Baker is a safe option that can solidify the position for you for a couple of years, no doubt. But I don't see him being a guy that's going to put you over the top and get you in a position to truly win a championship, given the rest of that team. Could he be a winning quarterback on a championship team? Yeah, I think so. I think Baker is decent enough that he could play well enough in big moments to not cost you a game. I don't ever think Baker's going to go out there and do something to win you a game, like an Allen, a Mahomes, even a Hurts has at times, along with a few other guys. I'm amazed that you don't go try to get a Kirk Cousins, to be perfectly honest with you, who I think is a better quarterback. Yes, he's coming off a torn Achilles, but that is proven over the last couple of years with athletes to not be an issue anymore.
I think they were still dealing with some of the leftover cap from Tom Brady.
They are. They absolutely are. So the discount they got from Mike Evans and from Baker Mayfield was a huge win for them. So to me, it looks like, and this sucks as a fan personally, because you're not mad about either signing, but I wouldn't be excited about bringing Mike Evans back even. Because where the team's at overall, you're not in a position to go win a championship, in my opinion. And I've said this kind of stuff about the Broncos and many other teams. If I'm in a position where I feel like I can make the playoffs but not win a championship, to me, I'm not trying to sell tickets and bring guys back. I'm telling my fans, look, this is where I believe we are. It is time to start over. We're going to do that now. I'm going to be honest with my fan base, and I'm going to do it. Regardless of how much it hurts, or maybe fans don't want to see it. Maybe it does hurt ticket sales for a year or two. But if you do it right, the NFL is built to do a complete turnaround and be a championship caliber team within 3 years. Pinky and I had talked about this a lot over the years. It's built to do that. So you have no excuse to not start.
I agree with you, which is crazy. But a team like the Buccaneers, who don't normally have the fan engagement that other teams have to do that.
Well, when you continue to put a dicey product on the field year in and year out, that'll happen.
When the Bucks suck, people don't show up, man.
I get it.
And
but
so I don't so that's my thing of I think they're in that limbo. If they build their O-line better, they get a couple pieces on defense, could they find their way into an NFC Championship game? Could they make a Super Bowl? Maybe. Could they make the playoffs multiple years? That's probably more likely. But yeah, they're probably not going to be like that championship contender. You're not going to be choosing, the Bucks are going to be right there. But I feel like their team will be good enough to keep their fans engaged. And sometimes certain teams need that too.
Okay, and I don't disagree there, but wouldn't you say that given the situation, if the Bucks had been more honest with their fans from now going forward and say, hey, look, we weren't always trying to win championships. The creamsicle days were the creamsicle days. Best jerseys, worst teams. We get it. But since John Gruden, We won a Super Bowl. We've tried to be a little bit better. We haven't always done it maybe the right way, but we're trying to, especially now after Tom Brady, and we've gotten a taste of what the winning culture should be. We're going to start doing things a little bit different. This is what we're going to try to do them. I feel like then fans would still support the team if you did that. And there are some organizations that have done that. I mean, look, the Rams straight out came out and said to their fans, hey, F them picks, we're going all in. Be prepared after that. And the fans still supported them. And they managed to turn around quicker than anybody thought. They look like they'll be ready to go for the next couple.
They did some really good drafting. They let some guys, high-priced guys go.
So Robert, I understand where you're coming from. I've openly admitted I've never been a big Baker guy as far as the player. I love the person and the attitude and the energy in which he plays. He's not a guy that I would go, I want him on my team because that's what I need. He's going to help us win. I think Baker's going to help you not lose, but I don't see him helping you win. And so that's why, to me, that signing is ho-hum. Welcome, Cam. Nice to see you.
Yes, Cam. Welcome.
Hey, sexy.
Welcome back.
Go ahead, Robert. Give him a rebuttal on that.
So, we keep talking about, had Baker stayed in Cleveland, he could be great in all of these things. Not saying that he's great now, but
hang on before you continue. Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt, but I want to clarify because I think Pinky and I are thinking the same thing. But Pinky, you tell me if I'm wrong. We don't think if Baker stayed in Cleveland, he would be great. He would be the same player. Cleveland would just be in a better position because they wouldn't have had to give up everything they did for Deshaun Watson, who's basically giving you the same quarterback play as what Baker is.
They'd be a better all-around team.
So
Baker wouldn't be any better, though.
Given that then being said, if you're going to give him that history and be able to build that team around him, sure, then they maybe be a force to reckon with. But he has been given that opportunity yet to really build, which I think this contract is going to allow him to do that with a team that already has a decent opportunity. They got to the playoffs last year, and they may very well have an opportunity to do it again this year. But there's a lot of growth still that has to happen in that locker room around him.
They need an O-line.
This is going to happen within the next couple of seasons. Maybe not this year, but I think it really will solidify Baker as a great quarterback in the years to come.
They lost 4 of the O-linemen from that Super Bowl winning team.
Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, so we can stay here. We don't have to jump, but just as a quick kind of thought on Tampa, they're not winning that division next year, and the likelihood of them getting a wild card is slim to none, in my opinion. I think Atlanta rolls that division next year now that they have a quarterback that's competent.
Which
I think top to bottom, the roster's better. The weapons are younger and more explosive now. So I think Tampa, again, that's why that signing is ho-hum to me. Yeah, he gave you a deal. You had some salary cap issues. It allows you to move some pieces and stay competitive as far as not being a bottom dweller. But I think, honestly, again, if you were in your right mind, you would have let Baker walk. You would have let Mike Evans walk. They let, not Shaq Barrett, but
They let Shaq Barrett walk.
Shaq Barrett walk. Really, what you're left with is Levante David and Vita Vea and Winfield, right? You've got, to me, the way you build a proper defense, you've got the 3 main pieces. One great piece at each level of the defense, and you can start adding around it. The problem is they still don't necessarily have the salary cap to do it, and their draft pick is later in the situation of the draft where, you can still get talented starter players, but you can't necessarily maybe get the guy who is going to change a game plan and be a game changer. So they're just kind of in that weird limbo place for me, which I would never allow my team to be. It's either we're competing at the highest level and we're all in, or we realize we can't do that and we're tearing it down and starting over. I just hate that middle ground. I can't stand it.
I can't fault you there, but
no, I can't either. That's a pretty good point.
It again, to me, I think the Bucs have at least got that fan engagement that they've been wanting, and they don't want to lose that. So as long as they put out a decent product on the field, they'll keep it. And I think that's kind of where they're at right now.
Fair. Cam, do you have any quick thoughts on the Bucs and Baker before we move along here?
I mean, I think a subtle point with the Baker Mayfield stuff, aside from, I think the Mike Evans move triggered the fact that he was staying. I think that another point of why possibly Baker Mayfield was, going to stay is the fact that Kirk Cousins is now in that division, because, the moment Kirk Cousins hits that division, they're instant favorites. Like, I mean, and actually we're call it recency bias or hot take or whatever. Depending on what happens with that Atlanta Falcons team, you're talking about a team that could challenge for an NFC championship, depending on how things shake out.
Sure.
Like, in terms of like the way that they are youth, because like the moment everything clicks for a quarterback, it's smooth sailing from there. So from the Bucs perspective, you have to have a quarterback in the building. Does that change maybe future plans, of them maybe being a little bit more aggressive in this year's draft? I would say so. But, as far as them being maybe a little bit more receptive to the idea of having, look, I've been kind of like mentioning him as a possibility for Denver, but I will tell you right now, for comfortability's sake and having him in the room, put Spencer Rattler in the room with Baker Mayfield, and maybe like, groom him for a little bit. I'm not, I mean,
I understand where you're coming from.
But the fact that there's the Oklahoma connection between the two of them, I don't know necessarily if there's mutual respect per se, now that he left Oklahoma and everything. But
Cam, let me ask you this and get your thoughts on this. I feel like, and maybe gross negligence is a bit over harsh. Maybe it's too much. But on that thought process, that line, with the Bucs signing Baker as quickly as they did, yes, he came with a discount. But don't you feel like they kind of hurt themselves by not doing due diligence on that quarterback market that's out there?
I want to say yes, but we know that in this day and age of the NFL, word does have a tendency to travel fast.
Well, who's looking at the quarterback landscape of free agency? Kirk Cousins is obviously number one.
Mm-hmm.
Baker's number two to me.
I've said this name a lot, and Pinky, you have every right to mock me for it, even though there's still some truth to what I've said about him. And we're going to find out this year, I think, finally, and we will see. But, like, Sam Darnold on a one-year, $10 million deal, like, it's hard for me to say
Baker already did that,
quarterback
right?
than Sam Darnold.
So he may not be. But Baker just took that team to the playoffs when he played on the one-year deal.
So I guess that's where I'm also having a hard time. Like, Baker didn't do anything. They backed their way in. They just happen to be in a division that if Atlanta wins their last two games like they should have and they didn't fall on their face, the Bucs aren't making it into the playoffs. Like, so to say Baker led them to the playoffs, he took them to no, he didn't. He had a good season.
They played some good football down the stretch.
Season. He had a Russell Wilson season. Like, so if you don't think Russell Wilson played good last year, then I don't want to hear you say Baker played well last year. Because
I would say
the same player.
Baker played pretty good behind a pretty bad O-line.
Russ played pretty good behind what turned out to be a not-so-great offensive line.
According to PFF, they were top 10, so from the guys who were doing the grading. I mean, I'm not the one that walks into sacks like Russell Wilson.
I'm not going to disagree with you. Baker definitely has some things that he did better.
Broncos O-line was rated as a top 10 O-line, not including what Russ does once the blocks are made.
But keep in mind, Baker also had better weapons than Russ. I mean, I would gladly take Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Trey Palmer over Sutton, Judy, and whoever else they decided.
And don't forget Cade Otton and Rachaad White.
I'm just saying, Baker had a lot of weapons. That's the most weapons Baker's played with. So it's not like he was deprived of talent and played well.
And not to mention an offensive coordinator, too, in David Canales, who's deserving of a job.
Right.
Well, I mean, his offensive coordinator, based on what he did last year, ended up with a head coaching job in Carolina. So Baker had a lot going right for him last year. Let's see how it moves forward.
Oh, man. I guess we want to even touch this?
Well, let's move to Atlanta next because we're still in division. So let's go there. But
we'll come back. We'll come back to that one.
We'll get there. Right. Will get his due soon enough.
I mean, man, I was a little surprised. I was surprised.
Did Atlanta get Cousins?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Why?
I just felt like they were going to put out a number. Cousins was going to take that number back to the Vikings, and the Vikings were going to be like, okay, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah,
No way.
I think that maybe in the early beginnings, it may have been a surprise. But as things were starting to leak and as things were starting to fall, it was trending more and more that it was the Falcons. And I mean, especially the biggest one, of course, is that his wife is from Georgia. I think she's from the Atlanta area.
Family's still into the Atlanta
Yeah,
area.
and so I think that was like one of the biggest things for me is like, okay, we've got something here. And then of course, you look at the deal. You can't turn a deal like that down. 4 years,
No.
180, million,
Coming off an Achilles.
100
Vikings
million
would have
guaranteed.
matched that if he doesn't get hurt last year, because I think they make a deep playoff run, a legitimate playoff run last year with Cousins and that team. They got off to a rocky start, but right before he got injured, they were looking like a scary team, like a team that nobody wanted to play. They had figured it out and they were rolling right before he got hurt. So I think if he doesn't get hurt, they actually give him basically that deal, maybe even a little bit more, because of what they ended up doing in the playoffs.
And they probably get that done before this season gets close to free agency.
Agreed. So I think that's what did it all. That injury kind of allows you to say, if you are even slightly on the fence, go, look, now's just the time to pull the trigger. And the Vikings are doing what a lot of teams are unwilling to do and saying, we're going to pull the trigger and we're going to move on and we're going to start rebuilding. But they did it in such a way, and we'll talk about it as we move forward here, that might give them the chance to keep winning, which is an opportunity a lot of teams don't have. So Atlanta and Cousins, given the new head coach, offensive coordinator, his ties, like Cam just said, to the city, yes, the Achilles is concerning, but as I've said, in all professional athletes now, that doesn't seem to really be a concern of an injury like it used to be. So there's a lot of things that make sense.
His game's not about running like some guys.
Right, exactly. And those weapons that have not been used, that they've paid a lot of good money in draft picks to acquire over the last couple of years.
You know who's really happy right now?
Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts fantasy owners. That's who's happy right now.
Actually,
and that defense was sneaky good last year. So now you give them Raheem Morris as their head coach.
Yeah.
Who's going to let the offensive coordinator do what he wants, but he came from the McVay system. And what did I say about DeMeco Ryan last year coming from the Shanahan tree? Yeah, they're defensive guys, but they truly, I think, understand that this is an offensive game now and will do the right things for the offensive side of the ball to make it be productive and evolving.
Robert, what do you think about that Cousins deal?
I think the Cousins deal is great. I think the weapons around him are going to be excellent, especially got Bijan Robinson there, which I'm really excited to see them connect. Kyle Pitts again is going to be amazing with them. They're just going to be a force to
good O-line
with. Great O-line, a lot of protection for Cousins. I think it's a dream come true for a lot of Atlanta fans, and I'm excited to see how Cousins really performs there for him. It's going to be great.
Well, you know what I was going to say is that when you actually look at it and you boil it down just a little bit more and you compare it to the Justin Fields situation, you compare it to the Kirk Cousins situation, and you peel it back even more. Obviously, Fields was from Georgia too, but like the idea that who would lift the players up more. This is nothing against Justin Fields by any means, but it's like who would lift up the talent in that room. Would it be a Justin Fields? I mean, that's more of a potential thing, not necessarily, what we could see. Like, I mean, let's be completely honest. I'm not comparing it to the 2012 Denver Broncos when Peyton Manning got there, but one of the best things that for Demaryius Thomas's career, Eric Decker's career, and all those wide receivers that were in that room, one of the best things for them was having Peyton Manning in that building. And so for the Atlanta Falcons, one of the best things for them and for that building is having Kirk Cousins there. And so having Kirk Cousins there and led by, and being a nice little soundboard for Zach Robinson, nice Colorado ties there, by the way, with Zach Robinson. But like having that and be a nice little soundboard for you is vital for a young football team. And I think that, you guys are mentioning all the other weapons. I think one of the other ones that I think is a very, very shrewd signing of the entire free agency was Darnell Mooney to the Atlanta Falcons.
I was going to bring that up, so fully agree, Cam.
Because
as a second, third-ish option, depending on how you want to use London and Pitts first and two, that's sneaky good.
Because I'm telling you, people will rightfully talk about Kyle Pitts. They'll talk about Bijan Robinson. They'll talk about Drake London. Power to them. They should, because of Kirk Cousins. Darnell Mooney, I love Fields' potential, but the reason why Mooney was being, rotted away in Chicago was more so because of it was more so the play calling and everything else that was going on with that, with the Bears team. It had nothing to do necessarily with that quarterback. So now you give him that veteran quarterback who's going to be there for a bit. You will see Darnell Mooney be a very, very sneaky, option, if you will, for Kirk Cousins, and not just in, the real world, but also fantasy. Mooney will be a very sneaky fantasy option for a lot of people.
Sure.
absolutely.
Here's the crazy thing.
Shh, don't tell these guys. I play fantasy with these guys. Don't say that. Don't bring that here,
You
Cam.
already know that you're foolish, but Pinky, it'd be something we talked about a lot. About sneaky sleeper. Don't be foolish. But here's the deal. On paper, this is arguably probably the most talent Cousins has ever had around him on the offensive side of the ball.
100%.
The best defense he's ever had on the other side of the ball. Now, last year you could argue with the addition of Addison, and then you already have Jay Jetta, Hawkinson, Dalvin Cook to start the season. Things of that nature. That
I think it
might be on par.
I think if they're close,
right?
Falcons O-line is better than the
That's going to go, Pinky. Thank you. That's why I would give the Falcons the edge, is because that O-line is just better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the talent on the outside might be equal, but that inside O-line is better, which I think I've always been a big Cousins fan. You like that? You like that, Pinky? You like that? Because I do.
Always. Give it to me.
I've always thought he's really talented. He's gotten a bad rap. Yes, he hasn't always had a great primetime record, but that's more the team issue than it is the Cousins issue. Because if you look at his numbers, they're actually not terrible. They're not always great.
His prime times have been
terrible.
Pretty bad.
The record is, but the numbers aren't. They just aren't. They're average. But you give them a better defense in a couple of those games, and that looks completely different. I mean, it's the Brady effect, right?
So,
Brady played with top 10 defenses his whole career. He wins a lot. So that's the thing about football is quarterbacks get the records attached to them, but there's so much more that goes into that than any other sport that it's incredibly unfair unless you realize the context.
I would imagine we would agree that the Falcons should win that division. We're going to give them their roses. They should be pretty good. On the other end of this deal was the Vikings losing Kirk Cousins. And now
I love what they did today.
They spent a lot of money. They've spent a good amount of money. And they did bring in your boy Sam Darnold.
They did.
They didn't spend a lot of money to do that. 1 year, $10 million? Are you kidding me? That's a steal.
No, it's still a steal, but that's actually, that's still pretty good money for a guy that's been a backup for a while. So
yeah, but that's what you're paying him as a starter. That's the key. You're not paying him that as a backup,
which is good.
You're paying him that to be your starter.
Because now you got to hope that Justin Jefferson will accept a deal without a quarterback in place. So
you also have to work out a contract extension, and
but you don't have to do it just yet, because what you can't do is let Darnold get into camp, let him throw the ball to Jay Jetta, see how they vibe, if they like what they're doing.
I don't know if Jay Jetta plays without a new contract this year.
I bet you money he does. And not just that, I bet it gets done like week 4 or 5. Because, and look, going out on a limb, totally understand that, don't care. This is finally going to be the most talent that Darnold's had around him when he's actually starting and playing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the best coach that he's played for when he's starting and playing. Now, Shanahan's the best coach he's played for, but he didn't play for Shanahan, really. No. So, O'Connell, I think, is a good offensive coach. I think he's going to have weapons. I think this is the key, Pinky. Is Minnesota going to be the Jets and the Bears, where they say, you don't need offensive linemen? Or are they going to say, we should probably get a couple of those guys in the offseason and in the draft?
Here's what's going to happen.
And then I think you see Darnold flourish next year. I do.
Here's what's going to happen. Darnold's going to get replaced by the rookie quarterback they draft, so it's not going to matter.
I don't think they draft a quarterback at the spot they do because of Darnold now, and I think they're willing to say, and I could be wrong, but if I'm them, this is what I'd be doing. We're going to roll with Darnold and see if he does have the potential truly there that he was drafted for, or if he's done, because either Darnold's going to be good and you're going to have your future going forward because he's only 26 or 27, something like that. By the season,
he's 26.
Well, I just can't remember when his birthday is. Did he just turn, or is he going to be 27? You know what I mean? But
he's 26 years old now.
So you have that option, or if he is bad, and I've just been wrong about him the whole time, which, okay, fine. But then you have a high draft pick next year in a position where there's going to be some good quarterbacks next year, namely Shadur Sanders.
Yeah.
So I think you give yourself a chance to use your draft picks to build up the O-line and some of those other defensive positions you need this year and let you ride with Darnold. I don't know why else you would sign him, in my personal opinion. It doesn't make sense to sign him unless that is your game plan. If you're planning on taking a quarterback in the draft this year and you sign Sam Darnold at $10 million, I think that was a bad decision.
You've been better off just playing Nate Mullins until the rookie's ready.
So in my mind, as soon as they did that, that was the game plan. We're going to roll with them this year. We're not taking a rookie quarterback, and we're going to see if there's something here or not. And if there's not, we're going to be even worse next year. So we'll have an even higher draft pick, and we'll roll with that. So to me, that's what you did if you signed Darnold. I thought the Broncos could have been in that boat as well. They chose not to go that route. Fine. But I think it makes even more sense for Minnesota. Now you just better fill that offensive line pieces and draft some defense, and I think you're in a good position.
What do you think, Robert?
It's tricky because there's so many different options with Darnold that like if you think about it, you know, where Caleb's coming from, yes, that could be the absolute and total game plan. But I also see where you're coming from, Pinky, because I just see so much talent in the draft happening that it's hard to not put someone else there too.
I mean, at this point, the way everybody's talking, quarterbacks are 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
So now you're left with McCarthy, Nix, and Penix.
And honestly, Penix with the Vikings would be a scary good fit. For me personally, the way he throws the ball, those wide receivers and Hawkinson, that would just be scary. So if they did go Darnold and then they got Penix in the second round, like if they could use a second round on Penix and get him, then I wouldn't be mad at that at all. Go with whatever game plan you want. But if you can't, if you're going to try to do the first round on Penix and you have Darnold, to me, that you just have more holes to fill than go that route. Maybe I don't know.
Well, you know, I think that there's so many routes that they can go, and I mean, and we touched a little bit at it on the 5280 podcast, but like, if you're in the business of reunions and that quarterback is still in the market, that quarterback is still in an option, I should say, for the Minnesota Vikings, and you did go out and you reunited Josh McCown and Sam Darnold, there happens to be another reunion of sorts that's on the table here. Now, how much do you take into account the fact that it's not necessarily college football in terms of the reunion, or the fact that it's not even the pros, it's high school football? And that being that Josh McCown was a head coach or a coach of Drake May. And I think that if you look maybe to a certain extent with what Drake May offers and what Sam Darnold offers, where does Drake May fit into that? And if you do trade up for a guy like a Drake May, to what Pinky talked about, you are looking at the point of moving on from Sam Darnold, you know, and going the May route. I think what makes the Darnold stuff fascinating, you know, is like if you look at it from and this is why, like, I'll just like speak to it to a certain extent from the Broncos side of it and the Viking side of it. It's one of the reasons why it made what the Broncos were doing and the Vikings were doing really interesting, because there, from the Broncos side, there was only, and maybe from the Vikings side, there was only one quarterback. Obviously, the Broncos never made an offer, But there was one quarterback that they were heavily interested in bringing in free agency right now, and that being Sam Darnold. They never made a contract offer. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings did, So the fact that Minnesota goes out and they, let's just say, outbid the Broncos for Sam Darnold, I have to at least think the option is on the table for the Minnesota Vikings to not take a quarterback in this draft. So there's a lot of avenues they can certainly go.
They've got to like one of the other three. They're not getting May. They're not getting Daniels. They're not getting.
They might get May. They might get May. That's the thing.
May, yeah, I agree, Cam. I think May is the one quarterback right now that I truly believe, and I said this before last season started, last college football season, when he started getting a lot of hype. I don't see him as a dude. And because of that, I think a lot of NFL people are starting to see that too. They're like, he might be a really good player. He might not. I just don't see him as a dude. And so I think he's the one that you could see doing an Aaron Rodgers slide or being the last of the top three taken off the board and maybe not in those.
So you're saying McCarthy would go to New England? Over May?
No, Jaden Daniels would go to New England.
I don't see Jaden Daniels getting out of Washington.
I think Jaden Daniels is going to go to Washington. Yeah,
I agree. I'm just saying, like, if Washington decided to stick with Sam Howell for whatever reason and they went with, like, Marvin Harrison Jr., I could see that happening with Washington. So that's why I say maybe – and that's not a slide for Daniels. That's just – look, Marvin Harrison on some people's boards might be the number one on the draft board. We
already know the Commanders are drafting a quarterback because they brought in Marcus Mariota, and there's no reason to do that if they were keeping Sam Howell.
Why not? Marcus has proven he's a solid backup. He's not taking Sam Howell's job.
There's no need to. They could just draft a guy in the 4th, 5th round to be the backup. Like, there's no reason to pay Mariota $8 million to come in.
Yeah.
Sure there is. It's been proven over the last couple of years that if you don't have a good backup, your season is over. But so I think teams are starting to kind of learn that. And if you think you can get a solid backup at a decent price, I think smart teams are going to start paying backups a little bit more maybe than they have in the past.
Mm-hmm. Completely, because there's just been a lot of reasons to have that backup solidified. I mean, this last season proved it. There are so many quarterbacks that went out with different injuries and things like that. And God forbid you get a Zach Wilson situation.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you have that protection because you still want your team to succeed, especially if you have those assets.
Pinky, you told me. Yeah, sorry, Robert. Pinky, you told me there's no way in hell we get to this point and Fields is still on the Bears. You told me that was never going to happen, and I told you better be prepared for it.
I was not aware that the Bears were wanting a firstborn child and
I told you
draft picks and
they're going to play it wrong, and they did, and now we're here. To think that there's no way Washington will keep Sam Howell, I said, and you kind of
they're drafting a quarterback at 2. New owners, new coach. They're at 2. You don't know you're going to be at 2 next year.
Yeah, but Pinky, don't be surprised if they look at what Sam Howell put on film last year and go, actually, this dude we can win with. We just need to put better pieces around him. Offensive line. We need to improve our defense. We need to do a couple other things. They got Eckler, right?
They can't sell that to the fan base, man.
Then they're dumb fans. Sorry, not trying to be mean, but Sam Howell, what he put on tape last year was legit.
Like, well, and the thing is, like, to Caleb's point, it's like it's not a likely scenario. I will say it's not a likely scenario.
No, not likely at all.
Right. But like the fact that like it's still on the table, and the reason why it's on the table is because Sam Howell, as much crap as that draft class had, and with Kenny Pickett and everything, and Ritter and Malik Willis,
and he's the best one.
No, well, I was just gonna say is like the fact that he actually showed to be a competent quarterback is the reason we're having this conversation right now.
But that's what the other surprise is it shouldn't have been a surprise that he was a competent quarterback, because if he had come out a year before, he was projected as a top 10 pick, basically. And then he went back to school for a year. North Carolina flopped and fell on their ass like they usually do, and he fell down the draft boards because of it. He didn't play worse. The team was just crap.
Look, I like Sam Howell.
Now
I'll take Sam Howell as a Bronco right now.
But Pinky, that's what I'm saying. I believe,
happening. That's a big thing right now, Pinky, is that the Broncos are really heavily leaning into getting Sam Howell. That was one of the big topics I was reading this morning.
So again, Sam Howell, while it's maybe not likely, I see a scenario where he stays. Yeah. They drafted Marvin Harrison. You roll Dotson, McLaren, Marvin Harrison, Eckler, You build that offensive line. Dude, you're ready built as an offense to roll still.
I agree that that's not a bad option, and that could be a thing. But there's no way new owners are not getting that quarterback to put out there and sell tickets.
There's also
it's not happening.
One day, you're going to start giving me my due and realizing maybe some of my ideas aren't as crazy as they sound.
So when I'm in Detroit, I'm going to take pictures of the quarterback from the stage getting drafted just for you, buddy. And I'm going to send it.
But that doesn't – what I said that's the most likely scenario is they take a quarterback. But for you to sit here and say there's no way that Sam Howell is still an option is
Sam Howell is an absolute option, and in a football perspective, probably the better option.
But that's what we're looking at. Is we're looking at it from the football perspective.
But that's not going to happen. So why I don't want to talk about it. So
and as far as what Robert was talking about with the Broncos and Sam Howell, that's one of the reasons why the Broncos are at where they are, and to a certain extent, frankly, if I'm being completely honest, if you're looking at it from the
I don't want that juju, Cody.
If you're looking at it, and I have been pumping this theory out like no other, and maybe this is something I've been mentioning on here. I think Sean Payton had this year in mind last year with a guy like Jarrett Stidham, meaning Jarrett Stidham was your bridge quarterback for the rookie quarterback this year. And
didn't I say that 365 days ago?
You might have did, but it's like
I don't know if you said it in those terms. You just said Jarrett Stidham's going to play football because Russell Wilson will get benched.
And I said then they're going to end up with him because they have no other options moving forward. They put themselves in a position. Here's the crazy thing, Cam. If you want to move to the Broncos, we can slide that way.
Let's do it.
On this thought.
Yeah.
I told Pinky earlier today, and I keep thinking about this, and I can't. There's no other way around it for me. The Broncos have made so many bad decisions over the last couple of years that they are now in a position with the quarterback that anything they do is an okay decision. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be bad. It's just okay. That's what we're going to try.
But
and that's really sad. That's where. But
the Broncos, I think, are playing this incredibly smart because
conservative.
Because if you do this theory, you're rolling out with Jarrett Stidham, right? I mean, there's that scenario where you're talking about, okay, you're rolling Jarrett Stidham out. He may not be your full, week 1 to week 18 starter. He may not be like one of those guys. But I will tell you, the way that the options have been dwindling, and you only being, as I said earlier, you only really being interested in Sam Darnold, not even being interested in your former player you used to coach with New Orleans and Jameis Winston, right? So the fact that
thank you, Cleveland. Thank you, Cleveland. Appreciate that. Took one for the team. Appreciate that.
So the fact that the options are dwindling, I think actually explains it more. The fact that Sean really does mean what he said last year, that he liked Jarrett Stidham enough. Sure, it was a $5 million deal, but the options are dwindling. Justin Fields' options are dwindling, and so much so that even if you trade for him, sure, you may trade for him, but for the Broncos' sake and lack of capital, you're trading capital. But even for that, the moment you trade for him, I have to assume, and I say assume, you have to assume you're picking up his fifth-year option. And then at that point, when you pick up his fifth-year option, you're committing to Justin Fields. So just commit to Justin Fields and build your offense around him if that's certainly what you're going to do. Go, and to Robert's point, you definitely can trade for Sam Howell. The unfortunate thing there is you're giving up more capital.
That's more expensive than Justin Fields right now, which is crazy.
I mean, he's cheap. He will be cheaper in essence.
Yeah, you can get Howell for like a fifth.
Yeah, but still though, my thing is I'm not assuming Sam Howell would be, or I'm assuming, if you will, that Sam Howell would be the guy that Sean Payton would want to work with. And so I think that overall, Sean Payton has been looking at this landscape in the sense of, I want a quarterback that I can work with, that I can mold like a thing of clay as my own quarterback. He's never drafted a first-round quarterback. And the way that the process has been molded out throughout this entire free agency is that it is pretty damn obvious that where the Broncos are going to be going in this NFL draft. And it is quarterback, and it is absolutely quarterback at either at 12 or they are aggressive for moving up, saying screw it for the capital, but getting that quarterback that they want, a JJ McCarthy, maybe waiting at 12, as risky as it is, taking that quarterback at 12 and taking a Bo Nix or taking a Drake May if he falls, if it's that Aaron Rodgers slide, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm just saying, like, the way things are going is that the Broncos are finding themselves in the situation where, unlike the Raiders last year, where it's to a certain extent somewhat of the same model, the Broncos have actually played their hand quite well at that quarterback position to where they can be aggressive now to make sure that they can land that quarterback, to whether that is that JJ or whether that is the Bo Nixes or whether Drake May falls.
But they still need to build that O-line around him, though, which is going to be a big key
exactly.
factor at the end of the day.
So here's the deal. I think aggressive is not the word I would choose in the way they pursue this, Cam, only because when you screwed up so badly that you're in a position where every choice could be right or wrong and there's no lean one way or the other on that choice, I don't think it's aggressive. I think it's you have put yourself in such a position that any option is a good option, and there's so many options because you don't have a direction. So with the Broncos, it's wild because to me personally, and I'm a little biased because I'm a Justin Fields guy, and I understand that. So if you don't agree with this, that's fine. But what you should agree with, and I'm tired of Broncos fans arguing me with, is Justin Fields is absolutely a Sean Payton guy. And Sean Payton proved that where he decided to go with Taysom Hill for a year as a starting quarterback when Drew Brees retired. He made that choice. That wasn't his only option. He specifically chose Taysom Hill to build an offense around and roll with. And he won that way. He was winning with Taysom Hill.
Technically.
Now, hang on.
Hold on.
I'll throw this out there and then you can tear it all apart. Because I know you're going to. I already know you're going to. But just let me throw this out here and you can tear it apart. Fields is absolutely a Sean Payton guy. I don't give a shit. I'm not hearing any other argument about it. So that would be top of my list if I was choosing. Go get Fields. I think it's a cheap enough option now where you can easily acquire him. You want to make a decision on the fifth-year option right away? Fine. I don't believe you have to. I think you can play well, and I think you can let Fields play and see what can happen for the year, or then you can mutually get a deal done. Is it a bit of a risk? Yeah, but I'm okay.
Yeah, it's a risk for sure.
Then I would like to see them actually lineman first round and second round move up a little bit if you need to, or stay put, get Penix. Personally, I'd like to see you go lineman with the 12th pick and then pull a Baltimore, be a little over aggressive, come back into the bottom of the first round and grab Penix so you get the fifth-year option. That would be my second option if I was the Broncos. Third option would be just roll with Stidham, go sign Mason Rudolph to be your number 2 for all I give a shit, and just be terrible this year and grab George Sanders next year. That would be my order of if I had to choose, regardless of I don't think there's a good or bad option in any of those. The only bad option would be is if you go through all of that, you choose the Shedeur or Sanders option, and then you don't get Sanders next year in the draft. Then I'll be mad because you just really screwed up even more. But that would be my me personally, that would be my order of what I would like to see the Broncos do at the QB position if I had my decisions.
And obviously, you know where I fall on Justin Fields. I'm just more talking about it like just from the simple point. It's like I feel like once you trade for him, you're committing to him at that point. So you may as well just pick up the fifth-year option. So it's strictly there.
I can see that. I would be willing to roll the dice in the risk game of that situation, given all the moving parts.
But obviously, you know where I'm at on Justin Fields and how I think he would probably fit with Peyton.
Pinky, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is minor. I was just hoping to get in before you went too long. Facts matter, when we talk about things. And he actually had Jameis Winston playing. Jameis Winston blew out his knee or his Achilles, and then Taysom Hill had to play. So it wasn't like he just chose
was the year after. That was the year after.
Taysom Hill has never been the official
Yes, he
starter.
was. Week 1 starter.
Okay, you guys move on. I'm going to Google it because I'm going to prove him wrong because he's never been the week 1 starter. I already got it, Caleb. You don't have to keep working on it.
To the Google machine.
Somebody have a stopwatch?
Yeah.
So let's see. He started October, November.
2022, week 1 starter.
No. He started in January of 2022. January 2nd. He has 33 games as a starter in his career.
Did he not start week 1 against Atlanta 2022?
2022. New Orleans.
Maybe not. Is that a no?
Hold on, pulling it up. Takes a moment. My Google machine's a little slow.
Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But he still kept him and paid him to be the starting quarterback.
He not starting quarterback, just a quarterback that he could use.
Those were not his comments when he was signed. So if you're going to put words out there.
I mean, Peyton pumped him up a little bit more than he probably should have, but that was not the case.
Okay, let's just say I'm wrong and we'll move on.
The starter was Jameis Winston, who had 269 yards and 2 touchdowns.
All right, my bad. I was wrong. I still think Fields is
You're
a Sean
not
guy.
Wrong overall, but again, could Sean Payton work with him? Yes. But I think to Cam's point, he would prefer a quarterback that would stay in the pocket, would hit guys on time, and work within the offense versus having to, update and change his offense to fit the player he's got.
I wouldn't say that because, like, to Caleb, like, I don't want to dive too much into the Field stuff. I think Fields can do it because I think people forget he was working in structure at Ohio State. Again, I don't want to dive too much in, to Justin Fields, so like, too much with the fit of Sean. But like, my thing is just more like, I think Sean just wants his guy. Like, I just think Sean wants his guy, that draft quarterback, and I
fully agree with you, Cam, and I think that's why they're going to draft a quarterback. That's just not what my preference for the situation would be.
Yeah. So, but even then, like, I will say, to the credit of the idea and the way that they are for the first time, admittedly, Caleb, I was wrong on this, but like, I will admittedly say that for the first time, there's direction. You're finally seeing a rebuild happen. You're seeing things being torn down and built back up by Sean Payton, which is exactly the way that it should have been happening, many years ago. And we all know one of the best things to possibly jumpstart a rebuild is you land on that quarterback. And so I think that for the Broncos and moving forward, this particular draft class in general, we talked a little bit about it from the Broncos side of things, of them signing low, young, like, cheap free agents, if you will. And that probably explains why, they went out and they signed the whole 2018 Texas Longhorn safety group, if you will, with PJ Locke and Brandon Jones and Caden Stearns was on the roster, which, by the way, off record, and I said on 5280, love that move personally in terms of chemistry. Anyway, but build the defense through the draft, and then build the defense in free agency, and then and then in the draft, build it and treat it kind of like exactly like you do like in high school recruiting, right? And like the way that it typically goes, right, in high school recruiting is that once you land your quarterback, you build your high school recruiting class around your high school recruiting, the class around that quarterback. So if you land the quarterback and you have at least enough picks, go get your tackle, right? Go get your tackle. Go get a few wide receivers. Frankly, if you need to move on from Courtland Sutton this year, depending on what you do still with Russ's cap hit that you're going to be taking on this year, move on from Courtland. Because one of the beautiful advantages that you can do now that you even moved on from Judy is you can replace a guy like Courtland Sutton and a Jerry Jeudy in the draft this year because of this wide receiving class. Go get a tackle. Maybe go get a tight end, right? Maybe even possibly
go get a tight end.
Possibly draft a running back, Javonte Williams. I love him. Broncos country loves him. But I'll be honest, who knows if he's on the roster come 2025? He could even be a surprise cut in 2024, as it pains me. So go out and get your running back. Go build your team as it is in the draft on offense, and maybe a few defensive pieces, I guess, here and there. but build the team and in what you feel are foundational pieces on the offensive side of the ball. And then at that point, you're looking at maybe next year, this offense maybe taking that jump and growing pains, if you will, of like the offense, the offensive tackles, so on and so forth, of you actually rolling with this idea that they're growing and they're actually maturing. So maybe you do punt on 2024, but at least that young quarterback has been growing with his young nucleus from day one, if you will.
We'll see.
They're in a tough spot. They got a bunch of teams ahead of them.
Yeah, plenty to discuss going forward as the draft approaches closer. Robert, I know you're excited about the running back class and where some of these guys started falling. Who was at the top of that list, and what do you think about some of those top guys? What were you most excited about for the fit?
You're talking for the draft. I just want to be specific.
No, for the free agents. We're still free agents.
Oh, okay. So free agents. So for the free agent class, DeAndre Swift was a big one that I've been following. I've always liked to see where he is going to go. I've always loved him with the Eagles, but I feel like the Eagles are in a kind of like at swing position right now. Yeah. They're losing some key players, and let's be honest, those last 8 games were fucking awful.
Mm-hmm.
And showed no real longevity for that program right now. And now they've lost Kelsey. There's trading more, and DeAndre Swift's out there. And if they're not going to sign him,
trading who?
Or not trading? I'm sorry. But DeAndre Swift being in the free agency, if they lose him, it could really compromise that whole situation.
Well, they did lose him.
They did. They went to Chicago.
That's right.
But they were able to do that.
I think they did okay.
They went from Swift and 3 other dudes in the room to we just need Saquon Barkley and we're good. So while I think Swift is a good running back, and I think they didn't give him enough touches consistently last year, the play calling was the issue last year, not the players on the field.
Right.
I get tired of people being like, yeah, well, the players still got to play. Well, then you don't understand that football is a chess match, and if you're terrible at making moves, you're going to look terrible all the time regardless. So now you bring in Saquon Barkley, who's not just a running back, he's your 3rd best receiver, and he's not that far away from your top 2 guys as far as receiver is concerned. That's scary good.
Robert.
So,
but how much of that whole line, though, from the Eagles are going to be able to protect him?
They were the best O-line last year, and all they lost was Kelsey. Now, while that's a big piece, they did.
They're going to just slide
Cam.
They're going to slide, Cam Jurgens over. And
so he was arguably the best center in the draft 2 years ago. He's a great piece who got to learn behind Kelsey for a couple years. They're fine.
Look,
that offensive line's going to be fine.
Those last 8 games, you were absolutely right. Like, we don't know what the hell we were watching. And I think we talked about it. We touched on it. I think Philly was hurt a lot by losing Shane Steichen, who turned out to be a pretty good coach. And Gannon, who turned out to be a pretty good coach as well on defense. And without those 2 guys, the OC and the DC were train wrecks, and they both got fired.
Yeah.
Now they've got Vic Fangio doing the defense, and then Kellen Moore for the offense.
And to your point, Pinky, let's be honest, and maybe I'm on an island again. Like, what's new if this is the take? But I don't think their head coach gets enough credit for being a really good CEO, if you will, not a play caller. Because for the offense and defense to be as bad as they were, he owned his mistakes. He tried to fix the defense in the middle of the season. It was a bad choice to go with Patricia, but he still tried. He still understood, I made a bad choice. It's not working. I'm going to try something different. And the fact that it was as bad as what we saw, and he still managed to keep that team from tearing each other apart in the media, like most teams would have, i.e. Dallas Cowboys. That's kind of incredible that he was able to do that. So I give Sirianni actually a lot more credit than I think most people do for last season, because it was a train wreck and you didn't hear about them going after each other the way you maybe would with most teams that happens with. And then he changed a lot in the offseason. I think those were his calls. I think the owner and the GM might have come to him and said, hey, you're kind of on the hot seat. What are you going to do about it? I think that's what they said to him. And he was like, look, this is what I'm going to do. I've already thought about it. This is what I'm willing to do. Are we okay with that? And they signed off on what he decided were the changes, which is why he's still the head coach.
I think that's one of the reasons why I agree with you, but it's also one of the reasons why I think that Sirianni is on the hot seat a little bit. Like his seat is a bit warm because of the fact and to his credit, and like he went out and brought in Vic Fangio, he went out and brought in Kellen Moore, but I'm guessing, is Clayton asking this from the Broncos perspective? I saw him chime in.
Probably.
Clayton's a big Broncos guy, so I'm pretty sure that's what he's asking.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it briefly if you missed it, but I love the moves of Brandon Jones. I think that it's kind of funny from the consistency and the chemistry side of things. I like the idea of bringing basically the entire 2018 Texas Longhorns secondary, if you will, in the building.
Hey, we got a defensive lineman.
We got a defensive lineman.
But guys, are we really going to call it like lipstick on a pig? Like, okay, the pig looks better, but it's still a pig. Like, everybody was so thrilled about last offseason, and I was like, I'm still not feeling it. And now we're going to do the same. Like, they dumped some stuff.
I still think the three guys they picked up last year
left in the building for it to be a true rebuild. Did they start to maybe look at redoing some rooms? Yeah. But are they doing a full rebuild? No. Because if you were, Sutton would be gone, Surtain would be gone, Bowles would be gone, and you would really free up all the space to truly correct your mistakes. And they're not quite
there. They
there
maybe
yet.
don't want to give up those guys, though. Besides Surtain, I see everybody you're talking about besides Surtain. Like, I can see we can replace Bowles, we can replace Surtain, or we can replace Sutton. Yeah, those guys are replaceable. They're older. They're kind of at their prime or about to pass their prime. I get it, but
I'll tell you what, Clayton. If you want to hear my thoughts, since Caleb doesn't want to anymore, if you want to hear my thoughts, tune into Manly Broncos tomorrow on Wednesday, and we'll talk about it.
Do that, Clayton, because I think Broncos fans are starting to come towards the rebuild, but they're unwilling to truly admit that that's how far it needed to go.
I've literally admitted it's a rebuild. You can go check my social media. Pinky has been on there.
I think calling this a rebuild is a little bit much. That's all. I think.
Isn't that what you said at the beginning? Is the Broncos need to do that in order to be successful going forward? I'm pretty sure that was the thing.
They're literally rebuilding right now.
Pretty sure that's what you said, Caleb.
They're letting guys.
They need to be rebuilding.
They're letting guys walk out the door that they normally may have re-signed. They're looking for ways to, still make their team better. We need a defensive lineman that can stop the run. We picked that guy up on the cheap. We got our kicker back. I mean,
anyway,
Anyway, I love the Broncos stuff. I do want to get back to this running back conversation very much.
Sorry, Clay.
Like I said, Caleb,
you need to take the segue. No, one other big running back, if we're ready to go back to that here. Cameron, I don't want to interrupt you if you want one more comment there. I'm sorry.
No, I was just, again, Clayton, if you want to listen to the Broncos coverage of what we got going on, tune into Mainly. We've got you covered. Robert, I'm guessing I know where you're going. You're going to go with a certain guy that is maybe a nightmare scenario over there in the AFC North?
Maybe. The real one I wanted to get to was Josh Jacobs.
Oh, yeah.
Because with not having watched the Packers much, but watching them against the Cowboys in the playoffs was tremendous. And seeing the talent that they really do have in some cases and now bringing all that pressure off of Jordan Love, I think it's going to be a great move for them, and it's going to be a powerhouse. And I'm really excited for this move.
So, Robert, I love this move. I have watched a lot of Packers games over the years because I loved watching Aaron Rodgers play. And then last year I had Jordan Love as my quarterback in fantasy, and helped me win a championship. Thank you, Jordan.
You're gonna keep riding on that too for a while.
I am, and thank you, Caleb, because Caleb was the one that was just like, he's probably okay. You should probably just do it. And I was like, okay, why not? Give it a shot, and it worked out. So
I didn't just say it was okay. I gave you a rundown on why it was totally within your best interests.
And you know what? I believed in you, and you made it happen, and I appreciate that. I have a great silver trophy, crystal trophy that I take with me everywhere. I took it to the Super Bowl because of Jordan Love. So
you did.
I did have some other guys like some Lions players, but back to the Packers. I've watched a lot of Aaron Jones over the last couple years. I love Aaron Jones. He's a fun guy. He's a great guy to watch run the ball. Jacobs is probably I don't think he's quite the receiving back Aaron Jones is, but that dude is durable. He's I'm so happy he's out of the AFC West because Josh Jacobs hates the Broncos. So I'm glad he's not in the AFC West anymore because he killed the Broncos every time. 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, just put it on the board and move on. So, yes, I agree with you, Robert. This is a tremendous signing. Kind of wondering who's going to play left tackle next year for the Packers. But other than that.
And right, where was Runyon? Right guard?
I think Runyon was at guard but had to move to tackle because of injuries.
Okay. I mean, they lost Bakhtiari and Runyon. Now, Bakhtiari didn't play last year, so that's not really a loss for them because they're good. So what they do at left tackle, I don't think actually is a concern. They already have one.
They'll figure it out.
Played fine last year. Runyon might be a concern, but guards are a little easier to replace in the draft than tackles, so that's maybe not a concern as well. The thing about Jacobs to me, and I don't love the move as much as you guys, only because to me, the only thing that changed with this move is they got a couple years younger at the running back position. I don't think talent level changes in the running back room. I think Aaron Jones is a tremendous talent. I think he was wildly underrated. I don't think the Packers gave him nearly enough touches. He could have been even more explosive for him. I think you saw that in the playoffs last year. When he got true meaningful touches, the dude went off. So,
and I'd agree with all of that, Caleb.
So,
but you got younger.
Getting younger is a good thing. I think that's the only positive, and that's not necessarily a bad positive, especially with the fact that they're already the youngest team in football last year. They'll continue to do that.
I feel like
they got a little bit more experience. So it's a great move for the Packers. I just don't think it moves the needle maybe as much as everybody else.
Gutekunst is like Leo DiCaprio. He's like, you're getting close to 30. I got to get you out of here.
Well, it's so funny because and this is the unfortunate situation we're in with the running back position. But it's an easy position to replace, whether that is through free agency or it's in the draft. But it's so cool, I guess, to a certain extent. But like with it being Gutekunst, I look at it from the standpoint of like it's almost like he treated the running back position this year like he treated the quarterback position with Aaron Rodgers and and Jordan Love. Like it was like, and when I say like even Aaron Jones, I obviously mean AJ Dillon because they cut AJ Dillon too this year. Like,
he was a free agent.
Well,
they didn't cut him; they just didn't re-sign him.
So like they moved on from Dillon. They moved on from Aaron Jones. So it's like they're starting brand new, and you bring Josh Jacobs in, and so it's like it. And I think if there's one position that we know in an offense that you can easily make it work like that, is the running back position. So I'm curious to see certainly like where they go. Like I
mean, if they're smart in the draft, they're going to go and draft the most unsexy position ever, which is like offensive guard, defensive.
Do we want to talk about the Packers for a sec?
And they're set, right?
Well, so as far as the running back position, obviously we know there's certain running back ties, Caleb, down there with Green Bay of a certain running back that may be an AJ Dillon type, with maybe possibly, in that same area, a guy by the name of Braylon Allen. If they want to maybe replace AJ Dillon with him. But I mean, like, yeah. And I think that's kind of the curious thing for me is like in a draft that is just a little bit more heavy on skill talent, the Packers the last couple of years have kind of dedicated themselves to skill talent. So is this the year where you actually see them maybe to a certain extent go to the Philadelphia Eagles model, which is something that I've even been saying for like and we touched on it earlier, but like even for the Broncos standpoint of just really any team in the NFL, using the Philadelphia Eagles as a model, having that chance of like drafting like Cam Jurgens, as a pure center. But you know what? Oh, we already got a center. Let's put him at right guard. Or like, hey, let's draft a center from Alabama by the name of Landon Dickerson. Oh, you know what? He'll actually end up being a really good guard, almost a Pro Bowl level guard. Oh, you know what? Let's sign him to a contract extension, make him a very wealthy man. In this offseason, overloading an entire offensive line in this particular draft should really be any team's motive. And again,
it's not insanely high level talented, but it's insanely good level deep.
Yeah. And so like, and even then, like I obviously say that from like, the Broncos should take a quarterback perspective, but even if they don't, heavily investing in that offensive line in the trenches, I will not, poo-poo that at all because of the fact that it's such a really good trenches and offensive line class.
Absolutely.
Robert, I am dying to know your thoughts because I've got a couple, obviously, myself. I always do, right? But go figure. But I know you were really curious on where Mr. Derrick Henry landed. And I can't quite think of a better fit or place than where he ended up. How are you feeling about him with the Ravens and what that looks like?
So I'm actually feeling really good about this. What made me very intrigued about where Henry was going to go is there was a very brief fleeting moment that I had thought he was going to go to the Cowboys, which I thought was a very intriguing situation.
Everybody did.
I was more interested to see what the backup option was going to be because everybody, and I guess now that I'm paying more attention to it, I guess I'm more aware of the whole Jerry Jones situation, thinking that they might make a move in the free agency, and obviously they haven't. So to see Derrick Henry get picked up by the Ravens as quick as he did, I thought it's going to be a great situation, especially for Lamar. And I think making the Ravens just that little bit stronger. But at the end of the day, if they don't run the ball when it counts in a playoff game, then that's on you. That is, you don't deserve to go to the
6 carries is not enough.
So when you've got the highest rated running or rushing offense, you've got some things to answer for in that situation.
I mean, some of it's skewed because of Lamar, but
let me throw this out there, and then Pinky, Cam would love to get your thoughts. Robert, obviously jump back in.
Yep.
2 things for me with the Ravens. First off, Derrick Henry and J.K. Dobbins could be the scariest 1-2 combination we have seen in the NFL at the running back position in a very long time. But it comes with a giant
Dobbins
what if.
out there.
Wait, what?
Dobbins is a free agent, bro.
I think he's going to end up back in Baltimore. So I kind of feel like that's a done deal. Granted, yes, he is. Technically, they didn't pick up his option.
No, you're good. You're good.
They don't need his option. They just are going to not sign him. I think they're going to just wait. I think he ends up back in Baltimore because I think his injury history is going to scare off any other team. Baltimore knows what it is. They can feel comfortable in it, but they've also seen the level of explosiveness that he could possibly possess. I think his talent level is top 5 in the NFL. Truly, no questions asked. He just has the most unlucky. He is injury prone. He's not an injury guy right now. He is injury prone, unfortunately. And I say that because while his injuries are major one-offs, he's had 3 years now of major one-offs. So I can no longer just say they're major one-offs. 3 years in a row of those is an injury prone to me.
Right.
He's moved over the fence. He's not way over the fence, but he's over the fence to injury prone. But the skill level and potential there is still so crazy. I think it's a low risk, high reward deal that he gets with Baltimore. And if they do that, you run him out there with Derrick Henry, that's insanely scary good because either guy could go off on you at any moment. Now, if Baltimore can finally realize they have all the pieces they need on offense, their top two weapons are actually their tight ends in Andrews and Likely, and then you make Zay Flowers, Bateman your third or fourth options, dude, Baltimore to me then just becomes this scary, crazy good option with Derrick Henry running the way at running back, giving him 20 to 25 touches a game with the run game.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows Lamar Jackson to not have to be as dangerous in the run. And he can focus more on the pass with those two tight end monsters. And Baltimore then possibly becomes the most dangerous offense in the game next year.
And
But
capitalizing
that's a lot
on
of what ifs with that offense and Monken calling the plays and Dobbins coming back. And so I get there's a lot of what ifs. But if all those what ifs come true, god dang, the addition of Henry to that is just crazy good to me.
And a big thing for Henry too is that he's a big finisher in the red zone, which is a big key that I feel like they were missing last season because Lamar had to pick up all of that work.
Well, and
So-
Dobbins wasn't there, but why didn't they give Gus the Bus more looks? Because he can pound it. So it is going back to the play calling with Monken there. But yeah, absolutely.
Well, and even then, obviously Odell Beckham Jr. is a free agent, but like the thing is but the thing that's scary is, or at least what Baltimore should do, is really revamp that wide receiver room now that's led by Zay Flowers in this draft. And I'll tell you, if there is one guy that I would love to see on the Ravens,
there's two of them for me.
And he's a bully. He's got one successful year of college, but dude is a chiseled god on the field. He's a physical freak. And that's Xavier Legette with Baltimore. Like you put him with Baltimore in the way that they overall just play bully ball.
I can see that. I can see that working because you already have the speedster, if you will, or the downfield threat and Flowers. You put kind of an Anquan Bolden-esque, if you will, possession guy almost in Legette. With those tight ends, with the running game. Dang, man. Yeah, I like it, Cam.
I got Franklin and Keon Coleman are the two guys that I wouldn't mind in Baltimore.
Keon Coleman's I'm good with. Troy Franklin, things like you already got Zay Flowers. So it's just like I don't really.
Franklin's the big down the field guy. Like he's gigantic.
I'm okay with that too, Pinky, because but again, it depends on. Are you going to realize your first two options are those tight ends? Because if you do, you're allowing the wide receivers to open up the field for those tight ends to be short or middle of the field seam kind of guy. That'd be smart. It would. But does Monken finally realize Likely is a beast? Because they only seem to realize Likely is a beast if Andrews is out. And if Andrews is playing, then for some reason Likely isn't allowed to see the field. So I don't understand their thought process there.
I also have a wild card for Baltimore, and that's if he lasts until their pick.
Which is, I'm curious.
Ladd McConkey.
I'm not as high on him as everybody else.
Not that I'm talking strictly fit.
Monken, McConkey.
So to me, Cam, I don't see that because he takes up the same place as the tight ends. Like he possesses the same space on the field as those tight ends. So
the reason why I'm tying two together though is just because obviously Monken knows exactly how to use him.
Okay, yeah. Given that connection to Georgia and he coached him, okay there.
Yeah, and that's the only reason why I say that. Like he could easily make it work with a guy like Zay Flowers or anything like that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I bring it up. But give me a Johnny Wilson in Baltimore, a tight end, versatile, maybe a wide receiver. Xavier Legette. Let's play some bully ball. Keon Coleman.
I can get behind that.
Cam, any other free agent signings that you were just like, hot damn?
I have one.
Give it to me, Robert, please.
It was the one that I sent you all earlier that I was really curious to get your thoughts on was the Gabe Davis to Jacksonville and the matchup with him and Trevor Lawrence and how that might work for Trevor Lawrence now. given his
I actually
performance
think
last
it's a
season.
perfect fit because Jacksonville is all about grabbing the guys who were supposed to be something and didn't do anything and revamp them and make them look good. They proved that last year with their wide receiver core. I also think, though, funny enough, and this might sound a little crazy, but if you go back and really think about it and look at the numbers, it's pretty solid. Calvin Ridley was really inconsistent last year. He'd show up for a game and disappear for 3 or 4.
He's a
show up for
free
2 and
agent,
just Ridley's gone. I think Gabe Davis is the exact same. He's just 4 years younger. So I don't think they lost anything, and I don't necessarily think they gained anything other than the potential because of the age of Davis.
Fair enough.
And Buffalo obviously didn't want to throw Davis the ball. For whatever reason, they did not want to throw that dude the ball.
So. 100%.
I think he lost Allen's trust. He dropped quite a few last year.
Yeah, but how do you lose the trust when the last game you played before the season started was 4 touchdowns and 200-something yards on the Kansas City Chiefs?
That was 2 years ago, though.
Yeah, and 2 years ago he came in hot shit and didn't do anything because they didn't throw him the ball. And then last year everybody's like, well, they'll do it. They'll throw him the ball this year now, right? Like, fine. Then they didn't throw him the ball again. So I don't know how you can say he lost trust when the last time you really threw him the ball was an insanely good game.
Yeah, I don't know what happened
there.
there.
It's a weird situation.
No idea what happened with that relationship. I think that's kind of meh. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's bad. Just kind of meh.
So I will actually say that as far as teams that I came in late, so if you guys actually touched on it, I don't know if it's actually like one free agency signing, but if there's one team who significantly helped themselves, it was the Houston Texans.
Which is why I have the jersey on today. That's why I have the jersey on.
Did they, though? Did they?
They did. Do you want to go down the list? Do you want to go down the list?
Go for it.
I mean, first of all, before free agency started, they re-signed Dalton Schultz, which Schultz and Stroud
They had a good connection.
on the
Absolutely.
same page. So that,
But he was already there. Like I'm not seeing that as
I'm just saying that like you kept the guy you needed to keep.
That's a good move. I'm just saying, what did they really add to really improve the team?
Go ahead, Cam. I'll give you a head start.
Personally, the reason why I say the Texans, the reason why they help themselves, I love the Danielle Hunter addition there. So if I just go strictly to one signing, you already had Bernard, who was an up-and-coming star, if you will, a pass rusher. And now you go with a guy who took less, right? Took less, a guy that was wanting almost $30 million a year to go play for you. And now you have a defense under DeMeco Ryans that's going to be led by Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter for 4 to 5 years. You know, I mean, we're talking a defense that could get better.
I mean, I love that signing.
Well,
so they definitely got better by adding that piece.
And then you even look at Autry on that inside.
Nico Autry.
You also have Aziz Shahir. The fact that there's the 49 connection, I think, really helps them in the long run to help make that defense, even better. And frankly, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Arik Armstead joins the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Because, let's think about it. The 49ers will be paying Armstead.
Right.
So the team that he's going to, it's literally a Russell Wilson thing for the defensive line. So why not go to like the Miami Dolphins or the Houston Texans, a place that's actually going to benefit you? I would go to the Houston Texans personally.
I like the defensive moves. I do think they added pieces of need. I'm not sold that those pieces are going to be I mean, they had to spend money, right? They had a lot of cap space. They were going to spend money anyways. So it's not like these are bad moves. I'm not trying to say that by any means. I'm curious to see if they were pieces that are going to improve them, or if they were just pieces to fill the hole.
Well,
or
they added what did Hunter have? Like 18 sacks? 16 sacks, and then Autry had 11.5 last year, on top of Will Anderson's like 9 that he had in his rookie year. Like, and the back end was Stingley, and the other corner they got. These are awesome, man.
They're one-hit wonders, though, right? Like, in the sense that these guys haven't necessarily put up those numbers their whole career.
Who?
Both the guys you just mentioned.
Autry's done it multiple years, and Danielle Hunter's been one of the top sack guys for the last 3 years. So
they both averaged double-digit sacks over the last 3 years.
Probably not Autry, because Autry's more of a defensive end. He's not the rush guy like Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter will be, but he's got 28.5 sacks with his career from the Titans.
How many years was he with the Titans? 3. Okay, so a little more than I had realized.
And that's the Titans.
I know.
How often do the Titans get to rush the quarterback, right?
Vrabel called the defenses specifically for that stuff. So don't be like, and it was with the Titans. Like, their head coach was specifically minded for that.
Caleb, just so you know, 2016, Hunter had 12.5 sacks. 2018, 14.5 sacks. 2019, 14.5 sacks.
Okay. So I'm not. Look,
I
was underestimating those signings a little bit. I will say that. I didn't quite, for whatever reason, I wasn't thinking that those guys were that consistent. So
no, you're
we haven't even talked about Joe Mixon yet.
I'm not excited about the Joe Mixon.
I do think that's not as good as other people, but
I like Joe Mixon, and I'm not excited about the move. You literally gave up something when they were going to release him anyways.
I mean, it's a 7th-round pick.
Yeah, but no, I'm not doing this game with you.
He also the thing. I mean,
you're okay with them doing that for Mixon, but you scoff at Denver giving up picks for Justin Fields, like, dude.
Well, the thing is
more than one pick, yes.
Well, the thing is, it's like it kind of is what it is. I'm interested in the fit, but we have to remember Mixon also has baggage, unfortunately, and he's got baggage, and there's a reason why he was a 7th-round draft pick, and then he also plays a position that is easily replaced. I mean, so
I don't buy the easily replaced. I think Mixon is a really good running back too.
I meant position-wise, not him. I'm saying like just in general.
Well, and that's why I don't like this. Running back is an easily replaced position. I don't like that. I think people have diminished the position. There are game changers. I think Mixon is on that second tier short list of being a true game changer. He's had moments where he really is. Pinky brought this up. Last year, it looks like he might have lost a step. I don't know if I agree with that, but I think there could be some truth to that potentially.
It could have been the Bengals O-line. I don't know.
I agree. I think there's some question marks. Was it him? Was it the O-line? I don't know. But to give up what you gave up and then have to pay the guy, I think there were better options. And
I would agree with that.
Either Houston didn't pursue them or they lost out, in which case I would have gone the draft before I would have gone with Joe Mixon. So I don't – at this point, I don't know if, based on the way Singletary played last year, I don't really know if Mixon's an upgrade for them over Singletary. And that's kind of crazy to say because I'm not high on Singletary. But I don't think they really upgraded there, in which case I think that's why I'm kind of ho-hum on their whole free agency.
Well, that's fair.
But after hearing you guys talk a little bit more in depth on the defensive guys, which for whatever reason I was overlooking, they drastically improved there. So now you could go use your draft picks on the offensive side of the ball. So why are you bringing in Mixon? I think that's where I lean towards on that.
That's
fair.
By the way, I just can't believe you were hating on the Houston Texans, but they literally signed our boy from Nebraska.
Oh, I'm not hating on him. I really like what Houston's done. I wasn't, and that's where this time sounds kind of weird. My initial thought on the defensive guys wasn't that they were bad signings.
No,
it was they're filling holes of need, which is always good. But are those difference makers that you're filling them with? They probably are, and I was just underestimating that.
No,
So,
no, I was just giving you crap.
no, you signed a Nebraska boy. I'm going to be with you for a little bit at least.
By the way,
yeah,
was Khalil the better one, or is it his brother? I'm trying to remember.
I believe he was the better one, but I always got him confused, so I'd have to go back and truly look,
Yeah.
and I don't have the time to do that right now. So, Houston's done well for themselves for the last couple of years. Houston's made the moves that the Broncos should have, and the Broncos didn't. That's kind of how I've been comparing Houston's moves over the last couple of years. They've kind of done everything I wish the Broncos had done.
It's also the model I think they're going to go off of.
Well, not with Sean Payton there, unfortunately, in my opinion. But hopefully I'm eating a lot of crow on the Sean Payton situation. That's truly what I hope. But George Payton's still there, and that doesn't make me feel any better.
Anyway,
You got any other ones, or we wanted to?
I've got tons, but
We've got to say.
we've
Yeah, I
already
mean, we
2
could
hours
go
in.
another hour. We probably
We've
need
got
to
to
wrap
say,
it up.
what do we want to do here?
Robert, I think there's one that surprised me you didn't bring up, and we could just talk about it really quickly.
Aaron Jones.
Detroit lost a key defensive piece to the Eagles today,
Oh,
and that
yes.
surprised me a lot, actually.
yeah.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I was surprised Detroit allowed to get out of that building.
I don't know, man. I thought I think they got more production out of Branch than they got out of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and I'm thinking they might have a plan to replace him
That's what
You
I was
better hope
thinking.
at a
so.
cheaper cost.
Is I'm thinking they've got a better plan in place here. They wouldn't have let him go if they did.
I hope they call Justin Simmons. I really don't want to watch him play for the Titans.
I mean, here's the thing, though. And Robert, please give me your thoughts. Detroit needed to do everything they could to improve the defense. And letting him walk, I'm not seeing a clear path to where that helps you improve, no matter what you do.
Well, and I think that's where you kind of got to find that starting point of where do you begin. And I think that's the starting point is, yes, he did bring a lot to the table, but I don't think he was that element that they needed on the defense. And I think that's why defensively they've got a better plan going forward to build this up from where it was.
They did trade for a corner.
They did. Carlos Davis.
Carlton Davis from the Bucks.
Which is a solid piece. It's not necessarily a needle mover per se, but it's a piece that now you don't have to worry about that position, right?
Yeah.
So that's one less thing you have to deal with.
Yeah, like they needed a cornerback one.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
And they got a he's not a
And
superstar. He's going to be
And
solid.
they signed Marcus Davenport to rush the passer opposite Aiden Hutchinson.
Which that guy.
I don't know. Marcus Davenport's never been the greatest, but
No, he's talking about Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Hutchinson's awesome.
Hey, Jacksonville, calling Jacksonville. Figure out your talent evaluators because they're still trash. Jacksonville, calling Jacksonville.
I mean, Javon was starting to get better, or Trayvon,
Yeah, I mean,
but he's not on that level.
He's
And
not
he may
a
not be on
terrible.
that level.
He's not a terrible pick. I'm not calling the dude a bust. A lot of talent, right? And still growing. But you could have had Hayden Hutchinson. Hey, Portland, calling Portland. Michael Jordan is on the board. Like, come on, dude. Like, if you see a guy who's already talented and has a lot of potential, you don't take the guy who was good and maybe has a lot of potential. Like, take the dude who's going to be awesome no matter what.
But yeah, no, there really wasn't a whole lot of other moves I thought were. I mean, I thought that there were a lot of shrewd signings.
Yeah, there's a lot of great,
Unless
well-managed money dollars signed.
Unless you're the Panthers going out and giving $100 million to a guard.
To be fair,
the Panthers are probably the worst decision makers in the entire NFL at this point in time.
Yeah, I was gonna say though. To be fair, look, I won't roll many compliments for the Carolina Panthers, but if there's one thing they really need to spend money on, was to protect Bryce Young. So, hey, yeah,
I do understand you have to overpay.
Yeah,
Carolina.
Yeah.
You got a second and a fifth for Burns. You got a like a third for Christian McCaffrey. Like,
No, they got a second, a third, a fourth. And
I'm joking. I'm just like,
Actually,
what you could have gotten and what you ended up getting is really bad.
actually, Well, I was going to say, speaking of moves and speaking of someone like Carolina, I don't know if it necessarily moves the needle, like one move wise, for them to be competitive per se. But I love the duo of Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which is why I was going to say I'll just give my final thoughts right now. We'll run the roundtable. I think what we're looking at right now with Justin Fields is the second tier of teams that nobody really thought about were ever even possibilities when this first became an option, which is why Denver's in the mix. I like the Seattle that you guys threw out. I think that's actually interesting, and I hadn't really given that a lot of thought. But I think the Giants are also a really interesting potential. I think they're done with Daniel Jones. I think Dayball could truly do something with Justin Fields. And I think with what they're kind of doing on the offense, it gives them a little bit more leniency on the offensive, or what they're doing on the defensive side with bringing in Burns and stuff, gives them a little bit more leniency on the offense to do something crazy if they wanted to, like Justin Fields. So I think that's another possibility. The other thoughts I have are Chicago has screwed this up just as bad as I thought they would. And I am still very interested to see how this unfolds. So they're my most interesting team going forward still because of all the options they have. And I think Denver has actually moved into my second most interesting team. And that's not because I'm a homer. It's because they literally have every option on the table at the quarterback position, and none of them are bad and none of them are good, which is insane to think about for me, that a team could be in that position. And that's where the Broncos are. So
literally everything's on the table.
Yeah, dude. And I think those two teams over the next couple of 3-4 weeks are really, to me, going to be at the top of most interesting to watch, and how their boards start moving and the rumors that start flying for them. I think you're going to hear a lot of with those two teams.
Yeah. I actually have, I don't know if you guys talked about like fits for Justin Fields. But, like, let's just say he's not a starter in 2024, which, based on the option,
very possible.
It's trending.
Maybe the most likely scenario right now.
Yeah. I got a spot for him. Actually, two. And actually, it was I saw this on a timeline by someone in I can't remember who it was, but I love both bits. Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson.
That means Anthony Richardson. Oh, you're saying as a backup for this season?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And then Philadelphia. With
Albert Breer had that.
I mean, I can see both of those for sure. I don't think they're out of the boxes.
The reason why I think Philadelphia makes a lot of sense, though. Guess what school Justin Fields went to before he transferred over to Ohio State?
Georgia, Bunkhead. Yeah.
So the fact that I love those Georgia boys, and I hate to say this because they signed into a contract extension. I can't talk. That at least puts pressure on Hurts. To at least somewhat of a pressure to play a little bit better. I'm not saying he's going to be playing them, but it's it's a guy that he's going to come into the room, and it's a decent enough option to also to resurrect his own career, meaning a field. So I love this idea.
Where are you at? Final thoughts today?
Final thoughts. The free agency's been wild. It's been like watching a Madden game.
Mm-hmm.
No, really though, it's been really great to see. Some of the moves have been really great. I'm very excited for the Kirk Cousins situation. I may finally get myself his professional jersey this year since I've been lacking on that. But
a guy.
I do know a guy, so I definitely need to take advantage. But really looking forward to it. But my last real final thought I've been saving is Aiden Hutchinson, my man, came in clutch, posted a whole Dune mantra today, which really made my day because I already love the man. Now he loves Dune, so it's like it's a match made in heaven.
Win-win.
Love the guy.
Love it.
Love it. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Pinky?
Robert's got a bromance with Aiden Hutchinson. I like it. I like it a lot. Well, I'm
Let's not
excited
go
for
through Pinky's jerseys of bromances. There's some skeletons in that closet that people don't want to even know about.
Mostly my Broncos ones, but all of my other jerseys are actually good players. I've got 2 on the way. You want to take a guess on who they are? One's for the Eagles,
Kelsey.
and then one is for the Texans.
Stroud.
Will Anderson.
Yeah. CJ. He was so cool when I met him. I'm on the CJ bandwagon, so I'm all
It is
in.
funny. It is funny though. Like we had this conversation earlier about like non-Broncos players whose jersey we would own. Well, now that he's gone, it's pretty easy to see which jersey I'm going with. It's going to be a non-Bronco.
But hopefully he goes somewhere good.
I own one jersey because I won a fantasy league, and when you win the league, Pinky buys you a jersey as the winner. And I own one jersey, and it's the Great White Hope.
Great White Buffalo.
Mr. Bird himself is the only jersey I have in my collection right now, and I didn't even ask for it. I couldn't decide on the jersey I wanted because I'm not a big jersey guy. And Pinky's like, "Oh, I got you. I know who you."
And it looks fantastic.
It's a good looking jersey. It is.
We need to get you a Nebraska jersey.
No, because the only one I'll rock you can't find right now unless you want to pay way more than I'm willing to pay.
You really can't find a Frazier one.
I had one when I was a kid. Don't know what happened to it. And now to replace it is an arm and a leg, and I'm not doing that.
Final thought. I think based on everything right now, I am on. Let's just roll Stidham out next season. Let's get Shedeur Sanders.
Does Stidham suck enough though to get Shedeur Sanders, Pinky? That's a bigger risk to me. That's a bigger risk to me than trading for Fields and letting it ride this season without a fifth-year option.
If Harbaugh had not taken the Chargers job, I'd say at least we'd get a win or two. Stidham could beat the Chargers because he did last year, but I don't see that happening this year. I think Harbaugh's gonna make them a better team and not choke like they always do. And
you got to be looking at the number 1 pick if you want Shedeur.
Looking at our games next season, man, we got a tough schedule. I don't see a lot of wins with Stidham at quarterback, so
I hope you're right.
I will take that pain. The last time we took that pain, we got Von Miller. Things worked out, so I'll take that pain.
Cheers, my guy.
Give it to me.
Always a pleasure. Plenty more we could discuss. We'll save it for a later date. Thank you all for the love, support, thoughts, comments. Don't care if you agree or disagree with us. That's what this is all about. Come on, throw it out there, be respectful, and we'll keep talking about it. Inner circle, family, friends, loved ones, cherish those moments. Please do not take them for granted. Take advantage of them whenever you can. We appreciate all of you. Until next week, we're out.
See you.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road for no